Our first guest today, though, and our former trainer, whose regular appearances at the races have been much missed, along with his distinctive dress sense for a year or so now. He hung up his programme book last year after something like 28 years. However, the intended subsequent downtime for Charlie Mann, which he'd promised his family and indeed everybody else, hasn't really materialised, as he spearheads a humanitarian effort for those affected by the awful events in war-torn Ukraine under the banner Racing to Help Ukraine. And Charlie's been good enough to join us this morning in the Racing TV studio. BST, Charlie, BST.
Yeah, I got it wrong. I've been sitting in the car park for about an hour.
Our car park here, yeah. Nice. Is it early in the morning on a Sunday?
I know most of it anyway.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, this is great, the Racing to Help Ukraine. We'll talk about lots of different things over the next few minutes, but Racing to Help Ukraine, just tell us what that initiative is.
Well, the initiative started because I had a travelling head lad called Kirill, and he's from Ukraine. His mother is in Odessa right now, and his sister's in Russia, but his mother won't leave, and the Russians are about to have a go at Odessa, I think. But I've been watching him, same as everybody else, on the television and the newspapers, and it looks horrific out there. And I think if you've got a chance to do something, then we should do it. And I have got a chance because I've stopped training. I haven't got a packed diary, so yeah, we're going to go out and do something. And
so something, what is something?
We've got 10 lorries so far. We've got 3 Arctics and 7 2-boxes, and we are driving out humanitarian aid, both food and medical supplies, and we're also taking out medical supplies for horses and feed, and so yeah, we're doing our bit.
And how are you gathering all those supplies?
Well, we're going to buy a lot of it from suppliers, and also we've got a drop centre in Upper Lambourne, and yeah, people have been very generous so far. And
you're talking about a convoy. You know, how will this actually work in terms of the vehicles going? You're not going to Ukraine. You're going to Poland. Is that right?
We're going to the Ukraine-Poland border, yeah, and we've got a convoy. So we've got 10 horse boxes. We may have more, and we are going Dover-Calais, then through France, Belgium, Germany, and end up in Poland. And
you, one of the people behind the wheel?
I'm one of the people behind the wheel, along with Oisin Murphy and a few others, yeah.
Yeah, so what's Oisin's role going to be in all this?
He's my co-driver. He's sitting in the passenger seat and driving when I'm not, yeah.
All right. You were quoted the other day, I hope he's as good a driver as he is a jockey.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I haven't seen him drive yet, but we will find out. We've got 1,200 miles to find out, yeah.
And what about the money involved? So you're urging people to help on the money front?
Yeah, we're looking for donations. People have been very good so far because we need to buy supplies, and yeah, the money's rolling in anyway.
And delighted to say that Racing TV is doing its bit with a significant donation as well to this whole initiative. So you say the money's rolling in. Gradually, people are getting to find out about it all.
Yeah, we need to obviously press. We've got a day next Saturday at Newbury where we've got 2 races named after Racing to Help Ukraine, and it's all about getting it out and letting people see it, and then hopefully they will donate money for a good cause.
And what struck me, one of the things you said was, it's all very well to say, it's awful, this is terrible happening not that many hundreds of miles away, but actually it's quite easy to feel awful and do nothing. But that was something you wanted to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, I could put 100 quid in the donation box and that's the end of it, but it's quite close to home, this. I mean, this is 2 trips up to Ayr away, 1,200 miles, and if you're lucky enough to be able to do something more than donate money, then it's a nice thing to do.
And you mentioned Kirill Svetsov, who was your travelling head person. So you've heard about the horrors that his family in Ukraine. What sort of horrors can you tell us on a Sunday morning about you know, the sort of things that they're going through?
Well, we've got a girl or a woman coming out called Emma Monteith, and her son works with a Ukrainian fella. He's 22, he went out to Ukraine to join the army 10 days ago, and he was shot dead 3 days ago. So he'd been out there a week. And it really brings it home when you hear stories like this. But, I mean, people are starving. There's nearly 10 million people going to be displaced. So, you know, if you can do something to help those people, I think it's important to do it.
And part of the whole project is James Mann, vet, because there are horses which is obviously of particular interest to you and your associates. There are horses there that are probably going to need care.
There's 100,000 horses starving. One of the problems they have is they can't get the horses across the border without chips in their neck. So we've got 400 chips he's taking out. He'll treat horses when possible. But the horses are important and the human beings are important.
And just the chips, so what's the complication there? Is it a sort of, are there complications on international borders even in war? Yeah,
even in war. But they need chips to move across Europe, as all horses do. But yeah, you'd think they'd give a little bit, but it's a necessary thing to have. So yeah, we're hopefully going to sort a few out.
You said you've done this because you've got more time on your hands now. That now you've stopped training. How big a wrench was that? You know, you've done it for so long, and before that, you've been a jockey for so long. Yeah. Suddenly, you've got all this action. Yeah. And suddenly, no action.
I have. I mean, I ride out for Nicky Henderson 3 mornings a week. I ride out for Oliver. I have an absolute great time because I can leave a yard. There's no problems, no owners to ring. I sleep so well now. It's not true, and I'm right in the middle of things, but with no responsibilities. And I'm also buying horses from France and doing a bit of bloodstock too.
And you say you're riding out for Nicky Henderson, so that's going back to practically where it all began.
Yeah. No,
end of the 70s, were you
79, I started with Nicky in his 2nd season. And the only thing different now is that I haven't got Corky shouting at me, his ex-head lad. But
did he do a lot of shouting?
He did in my day.
Charlie!
Yeah.
Do this, don't do that.
No, but yesterday I rode work on a very nice horse called City Chief, and it was fantastic. It was 45 horses in a string, and we were coming back down the gallop, and there's 4 horses that need jockeys to go on, other horses, and we had David Cross and various other jockeys, and he picked me. So I got off a horse and rode work on another one, and I felt like Frankie Dettori yesterday, I really did, and had David Cross behind me, who was one of my ex-jockeys, and he picked me over David Cross to ride work, and I felt 20 years younger because of that. It was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, wish you had the money after Frankie after last night.
Oh God, yeah.
and Maidan.
Absolutely superb.
So that's interesting. You were with the Henderson Training Project in the very early days.
His second season. Yeah.
His second season. Before See You Then. Before.
Well, I was there with See You Then.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but before he really got going. Mm. So Nicky had been an assistant trainer, been a successful amateur rider as well. Yeah. Were you seeing that when you reflect back 40+ years? Were you seeing the start of what's turned out with Nicky?
Well, I was up north actually, and I was riding, and I was actually asked to go to Michael Dickinson. It was Michael Dickinson's first season, and he hadn't trained, and I wasn't sure he'd make a trainer, to be honest. So I went down to Nicky. He said he had 1 year and it had a good season, and I was a conditional jockey at the time, and I'd ridden a few winners, so I went down to Lambourne, and I've been there ever since. Yeah. Mm.
And the Henderson at that point was obviously just getting going, but were you seeing the guy that you could see ending up as a champion trainer? Actually, not all that long afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I was young, and all I was worried about was becoming not champion jockey, but getting lots of winners. But you go to the place that you think is going to have the most success, obviously. And yeah, Nicky was going the right way. He'd been with Fred Winter and had some lovely horses, and you know, things haven't changed. I mean, I'm in awe of the man. He's out of bed the first thing every morning. He's got a little bit of problems with his sight. He's 71, and he's got so much enthusiasm, and he's extraordinary. Yeah.
And it sounds as though you think he's a pretty good judge when it comes to work riders.
Absolutely, he's improved anyway. Yeah, no, it's great.
And you felt like Frankie Dettori. Did you look like Frankie Dettori?
Oh yeah. I mean, I rode Colombian Boys, national horse, second one, and it was just great. And it makes you feel young. And they have a great lot of lads there, and it's just the banter, and yeah, I'd pay to ride out there, and it's great. It's great to get out of bed and do things like that.
Oh, be careful. The money people at Seven Barrows may start charging you to...
I wouldn't mind.
The Grand National is a race that's always... It's fascinated, certainly fascinated you and fascinated everybody, and Nicky Henderson himself. He's never... I think he's won one Grand National, hasn't he, which is actually a hurdle race in America. So he's had conspicuous bad luck, but perhaps that's going to turn soon.
Possibly. I mean, he's had enough goes that it's a question of having the right horse on the right day. The horse that rode yesterday is a lovely big horse, but I think it's a horse that damaged Darryl Jacob at Ascot, wasn't it? But I mean, the more mud you throw at the wall, then the more sticks, basically. So, but the Irish, I think they were what, first 5 last year or 6.
Well, most of the finishers.
So, I don't know. It's a difficult race to win now, obviously.
Yeah. What? But it obviously fascinated you because race riding is obviously a real thrill.
Yeah.
But race riding, especially a few years ago, before changes to the racecourse over those fences at Aintree, just try and give us an idea of what that thrill was like to you.
Oh, it was great. I mean, I rode in 6 nationals and I had a 100% record round there, but I never got round. And the fences were bigger, but the horses went slower. The race wasn't as good. But the only thing about lowering the fences is they're going much faster now, and you've got much better horses running it. But in my day, it was the good horses, the Gold Cup horses wouldn't run it because lesser horses ran it because
people were nervous about it, weren't they?
Yeah, they were much more nervous than they are now. Yeah.
And did you get swept up in the whole thing of obviously the National was the 10 minutes of the race, but the meeting went on for 3 days. It was in Mersey. This is what I've always felt swept up by, not just the race, but the whole sort of occasion of the 3 days on Merseyside. Were you much the same?
Massive, yeah. I mean, we used to go up for the whole 3 days, stay in the Adelphi and ride out the horses in the morning, and it was just great. I mean, the atmosphere up there is amazing. The Scousers and the Liverpudlians is great fun, and it's a different world. It's so different to Cheltenham. It's more relaxed than Cheltenham. Cheltenham is sort of be all and end all, and then it's more relaxed up there, and the money's fantastic, and it's a great atmosphere.
And Steve Smith-Eccles sat in this studio just the other day, and if you're able to catch up on that via the Racing UK website or indeed the app or however you find your Racing UK material, it is Racing TV, I should say. I do apologise. Racing TV material. Then it's well worth catching up on that Steve Smith-Eccles interview of a couple of Sundays ago. He had the great story about going to sleep in the back of his car underneath the coats and being driven off by a car thief. Did you have any great Aintree stories?
We had the bomb when there was a bomb alert. I got a new car at the time, and I was with a girl up there, and I wouldn't leave my car. And I was the only person in the car park that was still in their car, and we were looking at each other, thinking, well, if there is a bomb here, it might be an idea to get out. So we left the car and walked down the streets the same as everybody else. But it was. I should
just explain that everybody was evacuated, famously, including you, the BBC, which were the words that boomed out on television that year. And you had to leave the race 25 years ago. Can you believe that? Yeah. 25 years ago. And everybody had to leave, and cars had to be left behind. There were a few clever people who got their cars out very quickly as soon as they realised what's going on. But most people had to go out on public transport. Yeah. And you scarpered with everyone else, did you?
Yeah, we walked down the streets. You had jockeys still dressed in their colours, and it was the whole thing was extraordinary. And I'll never forget it. I remember the race was on a Monday, and it was extraordinary, the whole thing.
Lord Guyleen.
Ridden
by Tony Dobbin.
Yeah.
And Tony and Rose Dobbin with success as trainers now, including at Kelso yesterday.
Yeah.
And then you got injured, didn't you? And so the authorities here wouldn't grant you a licence. But obviously that thrill was such that you were determined to get yourself a jockey's licence wherever you were going to get one.
Yeah, I broke my neck at Warwick, and I was told to have a year off, and I always presumed I was going to get my licence out again, and they wouldn't let me have it, and so it was difficult actually, because when you want to stop something of your own accord, it's easy or easier, but it was a difficult decision to live with for the first 2 or 3 years.
How did you got the licence from where in the end?
Well, I printed it myself in the end, actually. It was quite funny because I went first time and I printed an American licence and I got fined by the Jockey Club because it was a technicality to do with the licence. I was turned down by the Arab horse racing lot, and I got fined for saying I hadn't had an injury, and then the next year I went out. They were so sure that I wouldn't have done the same thing again, but I spoofed it. So I did the same again. So I didn't have a licence the second time either.
And this was in order to ride It's a Snip.
In the Pardubice.
In the Pardubice in the Czech Republic. So your connection with Eastern Europe goes back many years. You're doing this great work to try and help people in Ukraine, but you became a bit of a celebrity, didn't you, in the what was then the Czech Republic with the Pardubice. It's a Snip was what, third first time?
He was second first time,
and then won.
His second first time. I didn't really have him long enough, I don't think. I brought him from Ted Walsh.
So just let's go back to the beginning. So you bought him with this race and the thrill of riding around the famous Pardubice racecourse in your mind?
Yeah, I bought him at Doncaster Sales from Ted Walsh for £4,000, I think it was. And I didn't really get him soon enough. I bought him at the August Sales, and we didn't get a run into him, and he was second that year. And then
with you riding,
with me riding, and then the following year he was much better prepared because I could get a race into him, and I wouldn't say I was confident, but I thought he'd have a good chance the next year, and he won that year. Yeah. And
just for those of us who are familiar with Beechers and Valentine's and the Canal Turn and all that kind of thing at Aintree, just the Velká Pardubická, the Pardubice racecourse, just give us a little bit of a reminder about that. It's a cross-country race, so I mean the first two fences are hedges and you've got big water, and then the taxis is a fourth fence, which is a massive hedge and ditch, and then you've got a bank and a wall and all sorts of things, and you race over about a third of its plough as well. But it's a great race to ride in it if you've got the right horse, because you take your time and you can measure fences up, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Yeah. And do you go from plough to turf, sort of, you know, quite frequently, or you know? You do. I mean, you go. There's a lot of plough there, and if it's rained, it's very deep, and it's difficult for horses. But when it's drier, it's more like sand. But it all depends on what the weather's done. And so there you are, riding in this race, not allowed to ride in the UK, with a licence that you've spoofed. Yeah. This is well, I was about to say it's heroic stuff. This is reckless stuff, Charlie. Yeah, it was great fun, and I don't know, he sort of put the thing to bed after that. I mean, I did what I set out to do, and that was my last ride, apart from a few charity races. But I think it was the sort of end of the chapter, so to speak, and close the book. So when you say you set out to do, so although that the authorities here, the Jockey Club in those days, said no, you can't ride on, you were just determined to have one last hurrah. Yeah, I just didn't think things were quite finished, and I wanted. I mean, I didn't want to stop riding, obviously, and so I just wanted to have one last shot at it. Yeah. Mm. Now as a somewhat older and wiser and a family man these days, do you now think that was a bit on the reckless side? Not at all, no. I mean, after yesterday's bit of work, I might get my licence out again next week, I think. But no, I loved it. It's you know, looking back on it, it was good fun to do, and it was just, you know. And then you trained at Snip, didn't you? Was he one of your? Yeah. Do I remember? He ran again. Actually, Richard Dunwoody rode him the next year. He was third on him. Right. And he won the odd race. He was very slow, but he was a lovely. But ideal, I would think, for all those miles round Pardubice. Oh yeah, I mean we've taken some much better horses back, much higher race horses, but they didn't take to it nearly as well as he did. And you trained for 28 years in the end. Yeah. And then, because with quite a lot of success, you know, horses like Celibate, Air Force One, I Love Moon over Miami was a great favourite of mine. Yeah. What made you stop? Well, I've trained Grade 1 winners, and I think we had nearly 700 winners, I think, in all. But once you get down to a level and you can't play at the level you want to be at, I lost interest because I didn't really want to be going around the Plumptons and sort of Fontball's winning races. You want to be playing on a bigger stage, which is Cheltenham and Ascot, and
I think you come to a stage where you think, well, or I did anyway, it wasn't going to get a lot better, and I wasn't interested in training horses.
So why wasn't it going to get better? You know, were you not being able to find the owners? Was there a new generation of trainers attracting them? You know, what?
That's part of it, but I mean, it wasn't for the lack of horses or the lack of owners. I just got to the stage where you needed 200,000 or 300,000 to buy a decent horse nowadays, and the most I've ever spent it in my career was 100,000, and that was only once. But I think we did well winning with the horses that we got for the money we paid for them. But it's got crazy now. I mean, there's a horse behind me the other day cost 570,000 over point to point, and once you're taking that lot on, it gets more difficult. But you know, most of the Cheltenham horses or the winners, they cost 300,000 or 400,000 each, and you can't compete against things like that. Yeah.
So Nicky Henderson hasn't allowed you on John Bon yet?
No, he gets quite worked up. I saw him. He was on the gallops the other day. I wouldn't want to ride him. He's a bit too gassy for me, I think. Yeah.
And now you've stopped for a year or so, nearly a year.
Yeah.
You've been able to take stock. You've been, as well as being a trainer, you've been an observer, a commentator with a small c on racing matters.
Yeah.
How do you see the sport that you're now involved in terms of riding on the gallops and buying and selling a few horses?
Well, it's fascinating when you're on the outside looking in, because you actually realise how badly our industry's run. I mean, the BHA, I'm sorry, but they haven't got a clue what they're doing. They don't understand our business, and it's just I can't get into it too much because I'd probably lose it, but I think it's a very badly run industry, very badly run industry.
Is it, you were involved in it very, very much in the forefront in yesteryear when things were different and the world was very different. Do you not feel that sports bodies perhaps now have to mould themselves to fit into a different world, which is one perhaps that you see as on the modern side?
I think you're right, but I think everyone needs to pull in the same direction. You've got too many people pulling in different directions and no one's helping each other, whether it's bookmakers, owners, trainers, racecourses. Everyone should be going the same direction, and they're not. But
that's not necessarily the BHA's fault, is it? Because
no,
they're one of the component parts.
The BHA should pull everything together. I mean, they're meant to run our industry, and I mean, some of the decisions they make are just, I think, absolutely ludicrous. But
so, what do you think is ludicrous? Give me an example.
I mean, we got Mark Todd down there last week, for instance. They've got the whole thing with the Robbie Dunn case that should have been sorted out in 5 minutes, not 18 months. All these things, it's bad management. That's all it is, and it shouldn't happen. And I think it makes our industry look farcical.
There is a solution, of course. You say you've got time on your hands. Once you get back from the Ukraine-Poland border, you could put yourself up to be part of it all.
Cornelius, I could sort it out in 1 week with one other person. I mean, I think it's absolutely ludicrous, the whole thing, but it wouldn't take a lot of sorting out. It's just common sense, that's all.
Well, I challenge you to put yourself up to perhaps get more involved.
I'll give him a ring when I get back, yeah.
I'm sure Joe Somers-Smith, who'll be becoming chairman of the authority, will be looking forward to that. Let's just come back to the initial point about racing to help Ukraine. So how can people help?
Well, we have a website up, and they can donate through...
Just remind us of the website.
It's racingtohelpukraine.uk. Right. And we have a Weatherby's account which people can put money into, and also we don't really need more lorries.
But there's some details on the screen there that is worth being in touch.
And we need support. We need food, supplies, money, lorries, drivers, we're going to go on the 10th of April, and we've got 2 weeks to go.
And delighted to say that on behalf of Racing TV, £1,000 has been given to Racing to Help Ukraine.co.uk, and it's well worth having a look on the website for all the information about that. When could this happen? When could you and Oisin Murphy be setting off behind the wheel of a big vehicle?
2 weeks today, 10th of April.
Right.
The day
so you've got to schedule all.
Oh yeah, we've got it all sorted, and it should take 2 days to drive out there. So it's Sunday, Monday. We hope to get there Monday evening, a day there, and then drive back Wednesday, Thursday.
And Sir Anthony McCoy, AP McCoy, he's got an involvement?
He's involved, yeah.
What's his involvement?
I'm not sure yet, but he's welcome to do sort something out, yeah.
Well, it's great to see. I'm full of admiration that you have taken that view, and I'm sure there are plenty of other people around racing, but around the country as well, who've thought, oh, look at the news, isn't it awful? What can we do?
Yeah.
Chuck a couple of quid is one thing, and you do it via you now, via Racing to Help Ukraine. But congratulations on actually on grabbing the bull by the horns.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's not a big deal. It's something I think a lot of people would do if they had the time. I'm lucky enough to have the time, so yeah, we're going to do it.
I'm just slightly worried that what Nicky Henderson is going to do when his star work rider is off travelling Europe on a humanitarian effort.
Yeah, he'll be begging me not to go, but no, I look forward. I'll be there Tuesday morning, and I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, best of luck with riding on the gallops, and best of luck with your application to the British Horse Racing Authority. I'm sure they'll be absolutely delighted to have your help. What do you say? You could sort it out in one day or 1 week?
I think a week at the most.
A week.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'm sure the authority will be on the phone line to you. Thanks very much indeed to Charlie Mann for joining us this morning on Racing TV. Luck on Sunday, and just to underline, racingtohelpukraine.co.uk. You and I, we can do our bit as well to help people like Charlie Mann and to help, most importantly, in that humanitarian effort on the Ukraine-Polish border. Thanks very much indeed to Charlie.